Now that our class is completely defined, we can finally use it in a program. Great. How do we do that exactly? Because if you hadn't noticed in our code, we didn't have a main inside of that program. So how do we run that again if we don't have a main? Well, we use an additional program. So we can create a separate file. So it's going to be a Java program that uses and manipulates the object of the class. And we call this the client of a class. So the idea is we create our class program, which has our attributes, our methods, everything defined for the class. And then we can create this separate client program that will actually call an object of that class. And we can do all the manipulation in that separate program. Let's take a look at an example of a client program where we're going to be using our clock class that we were just talking about. So this is going to be called client. And what we're going to do is we're going to create objects of the clock class. We're going to have my clock, which is going to set the hour to 5, minute to 4, and seconds to 30. We're going to have another object called your clock that's going to use the default constructor. And you might be wondering, how does Java know where to look for these classes? Because they're not in any packages. Well, the simple answer is just to make sure that your client and class files are in the same folder. So like for example here, make sure I pull up the right folder, here we go. We got a couple tilde files, don't worry about those. So we have clock.java, we have client.java, and when we compile them, we're going to have clock.class, and we're going to have client.class. So as long as they're in the same folder, the client will find the class program. So just keep them in the same folder and that will solve a lot of issues. There are ways to create packages, but we're not going to worry about that in this course. So we create the objects. We're going to print the time of my clock. We're going to print the time of your clock. We're going to change the time of your clock and we'll print it. We'll check to see if they're equal. Just by looking at this, they should not be equal. So this is the line that should be printed. So we're just basically calling different methods or invoking different methods just to make sure that our class is working. And then we'll finish up by invoking increment seconds and then printing the time. So this is just, once again, to make sure that everything is working properly. So a client program is a great way of testing your class to make sure everything's fine. So let's go ahead and compile. Everything compiled correctly. And let's go ahead and run it. If Dr. Java will let me do that. There we go. So it's running the client. So let's take a look at what happened. Okay, so we run the client. Let me pull this up here. All right, that looks better. So we print two different times. So this one is the my clock time. So hour is 5, minute is 4, minute is 30. This is the your clock time, which is we use the default constructor, so it should be 0, 0, and 0. We invoked the set time method on your clock, so that should be 5, 45, 16. We invoke the equals method to see if these two times are the same, and we find that the minutes don't match, so it's going to print not equal. And then we increment the seconds of my clock, so it should be 5, 4, 31. So sure enough, this does work.